Well, good morning, Leo Daly and company. Welcome to the State Designer Selection Board. We're certainly pleased to have you here. Pleased that you have been shortlisted and anxious to hear what you have to say. We've had a very interesting morning, and no doubt you will make our job even more complicated. As we recall, you have 20 minutes for your presentation, and we will have 20 minutes for our question and answer. And your time will start once we have made our introduction. So with that, I call the roll. Erin Fogarty-Miller, board support.
Present, and may I ask for a reminder on who's sharing the presentation?
That's me, Pam.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Anderson, representing Minnesota State Arts Board.
Present.
Bill Byer, representing AIA Minnesota.
Present.
Tom Murphy, representing Associated General Contractor.
Present.
Jan Shogoloff, representing American Council of Engineering Company.
Present.
Ted Tucker, public member of the board.
Present.
Glenn, I will turn it over to you to introduce folks on your end.
Yeah, hi, I'm Glenn Hano. I'm the project manager for the Department of Administration, Real Estate and Construction Services. And with the requesting agency, which is Department of Public Safety, we have Joe Kelly. He's the Director of Homeland Security Emergency Management, and the Assistant Director, Kevin Reed.
And I am Catherine Leonidas, public member of the board. And note for the record that there are 5 public members attending as well. So with that, I'm going to ask that the board mute their microphones. We've been getting a little background information or background noise rather. And that I will turn it over to you folks.
Okay. All right. So today you're going to meet a team that is skilled in shaping spaces that meet the demands of this type of operation. You're going to meet a team that's skilled in shaping the spaces that meets the demands of human experience within facilities of this type of operation. This team brings 3 critical things to the table that we want to share with you today. The first is mission critical facilities. We've got experience in federal, state, and local facilities. That means that not only do we understand the acronyms that we heard everyone struggling with, SCIF and ATFP, BLAST, and progressive collapse, but we also understand how to apply those criteria to projects, and we're going to share that. We also understand from the state and local facility experience forward-minded logistic planning that's heavy in partnerships and heavy in strategic partnerships. You're going to hear that play out today. The second piece is we believe that we bring high design caliber to this project. And that for us means not only in a high performance building, but also one that can be beautiful. You're going to hear us talk about the importance of performing within a facility that meets this kind of demand, but performing also that meets the human condition, the human need. This is also a wellness building. They're going through the pandemic just like we are. And thirdly, you're going to hear us talk about passion. For many of the folks on the team today, they grew up in law enforcement families. They grew up in emergency management families or fire families. You're going to hear people mention that they are veterans and have served on behalf of others. And you're going to hear people talk about the fact that they have selected this career intentionally to help serve those that serve others. My name is Cindy McCleary. I'm an architect. I'm the managing principal of the Minneapolis office of Leo A. Daly, and I'm the principal in charge on this project. And we brought a high caliber team to you today. Not only does Leo A. Daly bring this experience in the over 106 years that we have with expertise in Fed, BLAST, life safety, public safety, emergency management, we also brought a powerhouse team of Dunham engineers. And Dunham and Leo A. Daly have a long working history on mission critical facilities. We've done over 45 in the last 3 years together. And you're going to hear them talk a little bit about how they apply mission critical work to projects. And then we also brought mission critical partners who by far, hands down, is the national leading expert in these types of facilities. Not only have they done over 1,500 of them, but their 140 staff people are former emergency managers, public safety professionals, and emergency management professionals, and they bring the operational planning as well as some of the technical and logistics planning to the table. So I can't wait to introduce the rest of the team.
Thank you, Cindy. I'm Josh Hoyer, the project manager. Our core team is organized with a focus on programming and performance. Our program team is made up of Lynn, Matthew, Pat, and Marcy. This team will help with site selection and conduct the programming efforts. The performance team includes Joshua, Tom, and Melissa. This team will focus on the technical aspects of this facility, working closely with you and the programming team to ensure that the proper redundancy and technical performance is in place. As the project manager, I will bring valuable lessons learned from delivering mission-critical facilities across our country, working with multiple agencies and stakeholders who have ongoing missions of their own to support, in addition to providing valuable insights to the design process. This has helped us refine the project management plan to define the proper scope, schedule, and accurate budget. We spend the time needed to develop the management plan because we know you're actively managing ongoing emergencies, and we value your time and want to make the most of it. The project management plan consists of the following items: communication plan, which identifies stakeholders and their roles and responsibilities, goal setting, risk assessment, and mitigation plans. Schedule development with poll planning exercises, where we utilized WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and Planner. A rigorous quality assurance and quality control plan with independent technical reviewers is used with the use of Bluebeam Studio to allow for a secure cloud-based collaboration where we track, check, back check, and close out the review comments. Last but not least, our construction budget analysis is done in concert with our construction cost estimator and integrates the selected construction manager at risk. This proven framework supports the creative process and encourages stakeholder engagement and captures the key design goals and mitigates any potential risks during the design and construction phase. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Lynn Bjornrud, our project architect, to talk more about the planning and programming process.
Thanks, Josh. So I'm Lynn Bjornrud, and in my role as the lead architect, my charge is to ensure quality. Quality in our processes, quality in design, and most importantly, quality in our ability to execute your vision. And while my commitment includes full engagement from pre-design through occupancy, I will be leaning in more heavily at key stages. For example, during the programming process, Matthew, Pat, Marcy, and I will be leveraging our collective experiences with emergency operation centers, mission critical design, site selection, and secure military facilities to really provide a diverse perspectives and guidance throughout that process. We value an engaged process, and it's during these programming exercises that we begin to understand what's most important to the users and the stakeholders. It's also where we start to develop really critical design criteria related to the facility's resilience. And with our understanding of the implications of SCIF accreditation, ATFP compliance, and other military-based standards, we will help to navigate the difference between using these standards as a guide compared to formal compliance and accreditation of them. The protective design for your facility will be tailored to the unique parameters of your current situation, but also your unpredictable future situations. And by identifying assets, threats, vulnerabilities through this process shown on the screen, the countermeasures applied will be purposeful. But most importantly, on any mission critical project that we pursue, our focus from the start is driven by a single question: how does this support the mission? And really that question will reverberate through the project, and it'll serve as a sounding board and really a litmus test for us as we move through the project to identify the choices that we're making and assuring that they're on target. It's essential that mission critical facilities focus on threat mitigation and resiliency, but let me be clear, achieving bunker-like performance does not require a bunker-like experience. As demonstrated by the project examples shown here on the screen, the Arden Hills Readiness Center, which was designed to accommodate fluctuations from 50 to 750 occupants, and the Intelligence Community Campus in Bethesda, Maryland, whose purpose was collaboration between multiple agencies. High-performing projects can be beautiful, and mission-critical constraints do not inhibit design. Next, Matthew's going to share a little bit more about his EOC-specific experience and the process of shaping spaces that not only support the functional, but also the experiential needs of the users.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Keenan, and my role is the project designer. On a personal note, and as Cindy said towards the beginning, I too have a passion to serve those who serve others. I focused the majority of my career designing facilities for those in high security and high stress environments. In my role, I'll work hand in hand with Lynn on process and bring years of experience, layout, and system approaches to EOC design. In addition, I'm also a main point of contact, and I'll be coordinator of our engineering team and really our full team, as well as coordinating directly with you and the various user groups. We understand how critical it is to organize these types of spaces, ensuring this is a flexible, technical, highly effective functioning project and building. Our process in accomplishing this is built upon understanding you and your needs. We like to use a day in the life approach as determined with you for both the use and the functional needs of the space. That helps us develop and evaluate scenarios with you and ensures the most appropriate layouts are considered, fully vetted, and we meet your mission. We focus on designing your facility around the operations and you, the users. We know the importance of separations, both physical and network-based, as Pat will mention a little later, and also the need for controlled areas and select barriers that can be enforced or not, depending on what's happening. One such consideration being providing media dedicated entrance with limited interaction past a briefing room. Another being dedicated staff and parking. So that people don't feel like they're being watched as they're coming and going. And those are just a couple examples before you've even really entered the facility in that regard. We also place importance a lot of importance in the value of connection and flexibility of these types of buildings. We find a spiderweb type approach around the main incident room and war room is really critical and breeds success for these types of projects. The use of the building, a lot of these spaces have to blend around that same room and have interactions to this room and others. We like to take that day in the life approach to really make sure we get those adjacencies correct and really balance that connection and that movement. Excuse me. Next slide, Kel. One of the big key factors that we also consider is the human and the wellness. Human experience and wellness of this project. It's not just the IT and the building performance, it's also that human experience. And we really focus on using materials of natural and soft materials that we can provide spaces for decompression, isolation as needed, which are softer, warmer potentially, spaces for sight and visual separation to the exterior. And just really providing that human experience so that we can ensure that people have a good, wellness while using this facility. We take a lot of these approaches that we know and that we bring to the table, but also really want to work with you and what you know and what you've developed, especially given this past year, and potentially change to really make sure we give you a facility that's going to work well. The human experience, aspect of this, a project case point would be the Hennepin County Medical Examiner project that we're working with Marcy on, or I'm working with Marcy right now, in which we really took the site into consideration and designed a building that took the exterior and made it something that was useful and could be used by staff, but also looking at natural materials, things of that nature that really just helped ensure that human experience was at the top and foremost a consideration and importance. Working with Pat, Mission Critical Partners, and the rest of our team, really make sure that this project meets your needs and hits that vision and that mission.
Sure, and I'm Pat McFeely from Mission Critical Partners. We'll work closely during the programming stage with Lynn and Matthew for figuring out how your operations actually work. One of the key design features of an emergency operations center is ensuring that the operations center is designed around your operational needs, not designing your operational needs around the center itself. We'll take a look at the operations. We'll take a look at the critical use of data that you'll want to use throughout the facility. And we'll also take a look at the infrastructure, the technology infrastructure, not just the building systems, but also your specialty systems like your ARIES room or your radio communications and phone infrastructure. To understand that, figure out how it will all work together and ensure that the facilities are designed around that. We'll also take a look at changes in emergency operations centers that we're seeing due to COVID, be it traffic flow, increased airflows, or just being able to virtually use the space for separation of your personnel. Once the programming is done, we'll work closely with Joshua to ensure that the infrastructure is put in place to support your specialty systems. And I'll let Joshua talk a little bit about the building systems.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Joshua Kam, electrical engineer. I'm here to help coordinate the power, lighting, communications, and other low voltage systems for this program. The utilities in this program cannot fail. Power, secure comm, water, gas, HVAC, loss of services is just not an option. EOC ops is already stressful, and any disruption complicates coordination between the many agencies. This team will work with the program managers and directors and design for the appropriate level of redundancy and resiliency. We will validate the service connections and harden against inclement weather and terrorist actions. I'm a vet and now a traditional guardsman that was on state active duty this past year. Service continuity is my priority. Emergency managers must have a safe and reliable place where they can make decisions, communicate those decisions, whether it's during a pandemic, civil disturbance, protests, or disasters such as a flood, tornado, or fire. Utilities are always underappreciated until there is an actual outage. We will work with you and provide a reliable facility so managers and agency directors can remain task focused. With the redundancy and resiliency requirements comes sustainability requirements. This team, Tom and I, have worked on many sustainable and efficient projects.
And even by designing all those system complexities and redundancy, your facility will be energy efficient. As Josh noted earlier, my name is Tom Jackson. I'm a mechanical engineer at Dunham Associates in the Mission Critical Business Unit. And while I enjoy creating environments for creature comfort, my passion is really creating a stable environment for critical IT systems. As the local chapter president of AFCOM, a national data center organization, I understand the complexities of all these systems and how they need to interact. On this project, energy conservation is just the beginning. Our task here is more than just checking boxes of energy efficient saving measures, right? We want to create an integrated system of web of systems, living together in harmony, but it can't be done alone. Meeting the new B3 standards requires a full team coordination, and our companies have designed dozens of B3 certified projects, so we understand the paperwork and the process going from design phase all the way through operations. But it's more than just energy savings on this facility. As Matthew noted earlier, your facility will be designed around wellness at its core, right? Through proper daylighting, lighting controls, outstanding indoor air quality, the employee wellness will increase. And when the employee wellness will increase, your employee productivity will increase, which we all appreciate during an emergency. This facility will show the state of Minnesota and all other critical projects across the country that a complex facility such as this can also be designed in an energy efficient method. But we can't design it however the heck we want to. There are many codes and standards that we must adhere to and apply, and Melissa will explain how we apply them.
Thanks, Tom. So I am a fire protection engineer at Leo Daly. But more than just ensuring that you will have an excellent sprinkler and fire alarm system design, my specialty is really going to be shown in the code analysis and life safety features of your building. Throughout my career, I am very proud to be involved in various codes and standards councils and technical committees. So through this, I have been directly involved in the process of developing codes and standards like NFPA 13R and D and NFPA 14. My experience in this code development process means that more than just broadly applying code requirements, I have a deeper understanding of why the codes are written that way, what the intent is behind the requirements that are listed in the various codes and standards. So not only do we know the codes very well, we know how to apply them. And I'm there to help coordinate those efforts across our team and with you as well as our client. NFPA 1221 is one of those standards that is definitely a robust standard that has a long list of requirements for emergency operations centers. And we know that one very well and can help navigate that standard, along with the various FEMA standards that I'm sure you're aware of, 361, 426, 452, et cetera. They all assist in the construction of a robust emergency operations center for the state of Minnesota. And the combination of my experience, along with Pat's, Tom's, and Joshua's, in interpreting this long list of requirements will be crucial in the way that we design this building for you.
Thanks, Melissa. As you can see, our team has been built with intentional redundancy to ensure performance and success, because we understand that failure is not an option. We look forward to your questions and the opportunity of working with you. And we do kindly request a few minutes at the end for closing. Thank you. So with that, do you have any specific questions?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So what we're going to do is
we find a lot of value in these.
Yeah, we do. So with that, we're going to turn the first question actually over to Glenn, Joe, or Kevin.
Yeah, hi, this is Glenn. I'll take the first one. I guess this question would be directed to either Matthew or Pat. Of all the operation centers you've done, which one would you most closely relate to the state's need for an emergency operations center? And since its occupation, what lessons have you learned?
Matthew, do you want to jump in first and then follow up with Pat?
Yeah, not a problem. A lot of the EOC type facilities I've worked on, especially in the state of Minnesota, have been on the county level. And really, the biggest piece that I've noticed that is important and has been a consideration taken away is the flexibility need. Really ensuring that multi-users can use multiple spaces and that those spaces have multiple functions. I've done a few different throughout the state for a lot of different county work. And I think bringing multiple groups together is really the key that I think is some of the glue that I've found that is needed for this project.
Sure, and on my end of it, I would say probably closely related to what you're planning to put in place would be Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, Emergency Operations Center for Pennsylvania would be probably the closest one. Followed up by the Kentucky Emergency Management Agency, state EOC, and then probably Pueblo County, Colorado, which is the backup EOC for the state of Colorado, would be three close. And then I have also a slew of joint EOCs and 911 centers at more of a county level. But those three probably would most closely match what you're doing at your state, especially Pennsylvania, with having the watch command, the nuclear, the rep portion of it, as well as other aspects that Minnesota is looking at for having in their EOC. With COVID, we've seen a lot of different changes. Be it traffic flow into the facility, having personnel enter through one door, exit through another, having a vestibule to be able to hold people and take temperatures and check them out before they enter into the facility. We've seen where people have done increased airflows on the HVAC systems. Putting UV light on HVAC systems. Usually we were only seeing that down at coastal area or high humid locations. Now we're seeing it throughout all facilities. And we're also seeing small things like plexiglass partition between the people, socially distancing people sitting in the EOC. Breaking them out using technology into the breakout rooms and other rooms within the facility and using the AV technology to bring them all together virtually, but still have them all in one area. We've seen virtualization of the press rooms and the press releases for media. So media is no longer coming on site at some locations. And simple things as touchless doors and ways to open and close doors without using hands and touching. So and there's a lot more out there that's just touching on a few.
Thanks, Pat.
So next question from the board. Come on, guys.
Okay, I'll speak up.
Go ahead.
Wellness equals productivity. You have some examples of design informed by this idea of wellness equals productivity.
Sure, I'll take that one just as I had mentioned it. So things like daylighting, right? As improper lighting levels really kind of makes you feel sleepy. So obviously you're not as productive. And really controlling the indoor air quality, right? If there's a lot of contaminants in there, if it's too hot, it's too cold, really giving the employees a great environment to work in really increases that wellness and makes them want to be there and want to learn and want to proceed and do best for the company.
On top of that too, acoustics is something to consider. Too much noise is an issue, not enough noise is an issue for stress release or, just kind of the wellness, taking clutter in consideration, making sure that the layout and the spaces have room for organization, things of that nature, on top of just the natural lighting and the materials. There's a lot of different considerations when it kind of comes to that wellness and how it can subconsciously affect people that we make sure we consciously consider.
So question back to Kevin, Joe, or Glenn.
Go ahead, Kevin. Or Pat, or Joe, probably.
Thanks. Thanks, Glenn. Maybe expanding a little more on, but not exclusively to lessons learned during the pandemic, and it's as much about trends that were coming that maybe have been accelerated by that. One is the kind of the media center aspect of this, the absolute thirst for information. I mean, just turn on your television and learn what people want to know about vaccinations right now. But the need to put out high quality, well-produced media things from this facility. And then related to it is we're probably going to have fewer in-person meetings than we have had in the past, not just because of COVID, but we've all learned that, time and distance cost money. So we have a training program, for example, that we're going to have to learn how to send out virtually as well as create products. So just a reaction to that, the media training, conferencing in probably what environment's going to be more like in the future, not really caused by the pandemic, but I think accelerated by it.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question. I think Lynn and Pat have some good examples of what they've been doing recently.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. It is a great question. And the reality is that it's a moving target. And quite honestly, if we were having this interview and talking about designing this facility 18 months ago or 2 years ago, we'd be talking about different needs and different drivers. And so that's going to continue to change. And so flexibility is going to be incredibly important. And, part of the reason we put together this specific team was the understanding and the recognition that the systems that are going to support this, the audio-visual needs that are more and more important today than they ever have been, will be really critical. So, what our hope is that in working closely with you, we'll be able to start with the organizational requirements to be successful and to be able to accommodate the media needs of today, but also to be able to look at what would the next step be? What's the next unpredictable item that we're going to have to deal with? How can we move seamlessly from being in person or virtual? And really the audio visual components of that are so critical because they have to work. And like you said, it has to be high quality because the appetite for briefings and for people to have a constant stream of information is only going to grow, I think, from here.
Sure, and to add on that, with the AV You're taking a look at old EOCs. You had whiteboards. You had a couple of monitors are up on the wall. The new EOCs, as Lynn's pointing out, definitely have advanced audiovisual systems, but at the same time, they're audiovisual systems that are easy to use. They're intuitive use. We're seeing where they're starting to connect some of their audio-video systems into being able to stream it to WebEx, to stream it to your other platforms or whatever platform you want to use for collaboration. And that helps with the internal collaboration. So it's being able to display anything anywhere is pretty much the analogy that's moving forward for those virtual meetings, as well as with VTC and things like that, to have high-res cameras in place inside the EOC, as well as sound, being able to take some of the sound off of the EOC floor and be able to pipe it elsewhere, and vice versa. You're also seeing with that those cameras, high-res cameras also being used and being able to stream to the media partners, so that you're not bringing media on site anymore. You're pretty much producing your own and then producing it out to them. And also publicly putting it onto local public TV channels and things like that. So it's definitely a lot more technology involved there. But it's also it's a lot easier to use compared to how it used to be. And we work with the AV vendors to ensure that that's put in place at ease of use.
It's also important to note too that with the marriage of technology and space, the hardware software component is important too. Our experience with cybersecurity on the front end during the design and specifications of these systems, I think is very, very critical, and Joshua probably has some pretty good examples of that, as I am not the cybersecurity expert.
All right, with that, I'm going to turn the questions over to the board.
I have a question about site design, security at the site. The site hasn't been selected yet, but it's yet to happen. This building could have identity and great visibility as a welcoming civic space, but it's also going to be a secure site during crisis mode. How might this be approached?
I could tackle that one, Josh. Hi, I'm Marcy Westlock. I'm with Daly Design Lab. I'm the site civil engineer. On the team I've worked with Leeway Daly on a couple of recent projects, specifically the Minnesota National Guard's Readiness Center at AHATS, and then the Hennepin County Medical Examiner Facility, both of which had a lot of impact with the site. And essentially, when we look at these site selections, we start with what I would call risk assessment, I suppose, the location of the site. First and foremost, does it properly locate on the site and meet the requirements, the Department of Homeland Security and your ATFP requirements? But also with the changing locations, like you guys may be looking at, you're also changing jurisdictions. You're having different authorities having regulatory requirements that are going to impact multiple things. That can be where you can build, but also access to the site, the infrastructure to the site. At AHAT specifically, I know that, for example, the sanitary sewer is well under capacity, for example. So those types of things are really going to indicate where you want to place that building and what location that ends up at. But outside of those programmatic factors, you also have environmental things to consider. But also going to have great impacts on the design. So topography, working with the topography can help with access, for example. If you want media coming in at a different location than the public, than the personnel, than all of your multiple stakeholders, topography can play well into that. But we're also looking at sustainability features. So we're looking at tree preservation, perhaps, the types of soils we have on site, natural habitats, wetlands, and so forth. But again, it all comes back to the program of the site, and I'll work really closely with Matthew and Lynn as we lay out this building, because the site is very indicative of your security, of your wellness. Your sight lines are going to play well into that. We want daylight into the site, but with daylight, there's also views out. So we'll want to mitigate looking at anything busy or distracting or stressful, things like that. And then lastly, sustainability, B3, we've had a lot of experience with that, but it has a major impact on stormwater features, which again, stormwater can be used to help with security, creating a division that you can't cross like a barrier, but it also could be something that's relaxing and beautiful on the site.
I'd like to also highlight another principle, if I could, that really comes from our secure facility design experience, and that is the concept of security in depth. And that starts at the site level. And really what that allows you to do is, whether using natural features, the directionality of entrance roadways, whether there's gates in place or fences, at each step of the way, before you even get to the building, there's different layers that provide that security in depth. And really it's about control more than it's purely about prohibiting. And especially with a facility like this, being able to control those different layers is incredibly important, as there's going to be times when it is about keeping people or things away, and then times when it is about allowing media or specific people in. So by leveraging those concepts from our secure facility experience, we can really provide you the most control over that as the facility is dealing with an emergency.
And just to add to that, one of the things that we would do during the programming phase is a FIRA, which is your FEMA threat and assessment and risk analysis. And that's a collaboration effort between the design team and the state of Minnesota to decide what you feel your threats are, and to rate those threats so that it's then integrated into the design process. So it's not just us telling you how this should look or how it should be. It's a collaborative effort between you and the design team to identify what you feel the threats are, and then how we mitigate those so that you get a facility that you are proud of and are happy with.
Thank you.
So a question from Joe, Glenn, Kevin.
Joe, I'll let you take the second one too.
Hey, thanks, Catherine and Glenn. My question, I guess, the quick preamble is, if we've learned anything in the last year, and careful with the last thing you've done, but it's that your next disaster is probably going to be different than your previous experience. So particularly we found with collaborative workspaces and scalability, and thank God we got a crappy old building because we were able to reconfigure workspace and close things down, create new things to meet the demands of this response. So if you could talk a little bit about flexibility, scalability, modularity of some of these collaborative workspaces, because a lot of the really good work and really important work doesn't happen on the EOC floor. It happens in what I'll call workrooms.
Absolutely. Matthew and Lynn, I think you guys got a great response for this one. You're on mute, Matthew.
A key piece to the flexibility consideration, as you've discussed, is really to take a look at all those facets of it, from a workstation layout to room and separations within room with dividers, partitions, movable partitions, really being able to kind of modulate down to whatever need that we've kind of developed with you and you determine is appropriate, if that's just a few workstations or if it's larger conference rooms being shrunken down, to really give you that flexibility so that we know you have multiple. I mean, let's be honest, we know this past year too, it was a great example. You've got multiple things going on at one time. It's not just COVID, or it's not just a civil uprising kind of situation. It's all these pieces that have to be separated and compartmentalized. And so some of the specific things we like to look at is how can we do that in furniture? Then how can we do that with movable walls? And then physical walls that aren't immovable? And just kind of peel back all those different layers of the onion, so to speak, just to really kind of hit all those different facets to give you that modularity.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that is, when in any given space, if it has the ability to do more than one thing, that provides additional flexibility. And whether it's a facility like this, truly the flexibility for the future is such a huge topic in any facility we're designing. It doesn't matter what arena it's in, largely because the world is changing so quickly, and we have to be able to respond to that. So planning for change is a critical component of the entire design process. And there's a number of different ways we can do that. But the first is admitting that we don't know what the next thing is. So we have to kind of design to that unknown.
And also making sure that we've got infrastructures in place from a system standpoint too, to handle that, whether that's, electrical raceways and things like that can easily be modified over time. As Lynn said, we just don't know, but we want to provide the backbone so it's easily modifiable for all those changes.
Well, I'm going to actually take the next question, because I was kind of curious why you would bring a light safety code consultant to an interview, and Melissa, you piqued my interest. What is it about an EOC that's so unique that really requires that level of sophistication on a project?
I mentioned NFPA 1221, and that is the standard that I have gotten intimately familiar with in my EOC experience. In fact, the first one that I did, it was very fascinating. It was in Mercury, Nevada, which is the southern gateway to the that big secret part of Nevada, including Area 51. And as you can imagine, that was quite a secure facility. And they implemented absolutely every last requirement, or I should say suggestion, in NFPA 1221. And those things are partially around being able to isolate the building. Redundancy we talked about a lot, but some of those redundant things are drinking water and facilities inside the actual operations center. Rated separations around that operations center. Basically, the buildings are constructed in a manner that you can have disasters happening right around the building, or even in parts of the building, and still have this functional like war room command center kind of a deal. So really my role is mostly just to navigate that, because a lot of the ways that our codes and standards are written, it's not as easy as just jumping right to one specific section of like the building code and or the NFPA 1221. You have to know how they all work together. You have to read the beginnings to understand the modifications later on. And I mean, that's been my main contribution to every EOC that we have worked on so far. And I'm happy to kind of help everybody navigate those, because they can be quite overwhelming.
Well, and that will be the last. Go ahead.
I was just going to say these requirements also have significant impacts on the budget, construction budget. So it's important for us to have all of those viewpoints at the table while we're going through the pre-design phase, because we know that everybody's working on a budget, and we want to make the best use of it.
Well, and we are now out of time. So really appreciate you being here today. We certainly had 3 great interviews, and appreciate your time. You can expect to hear from the executive secretary in the next, either today.
Okay, that sounds good. And we want to just extend really quickly a thank you to you all. We know that this digital interface is new for everybody. To be able to get the chemistry of the team right is a challenge to convey digitally, and we know that you take that challenge seriously. And then hopefully you've been able to see that our team understands and respects the significant mission that the Minnesota EOC and Emergency Management Homeland Security has in front of them. And we are not unaware of the fact that you left multiple mobilized events in order to participate in this one today. So we thank you for the chance for us to share our passion and our experience, our ability to help you move your project forward.
All right, with that, we will let you leave. We'll stop the recording for a moment. I'm going to go get a power cord.
All right.
And we'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all.